Hi guys, and welcome to my first ever game with High Elves. Now I'm going to be playing Naggaroth, which is a sub-faction, but it's still High Elves overall. I'm going to be up against Vampire Counts. So a quick little look at my army here. I've gone for the almighty Alith Anar. Now I don't think he's overly competitive. He's a ranged lord who fires his big bow, but story-wise and character-wise, he's by far my favourite high elf. A lot darker than the usual ones, and he's kind of a cool character to bring anyway. So he's got his little personal bodyguard here, his Shadow Walkers. I couldn't very well bring Alith Anar without bringing at least one group of these guys. Now in the back, I have a group of spearmen. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those guys. They're just there to hold the front line, and whilst all my missiles do more of the damage. And for the missiles, I've got 1 unit of archers, and the rest are going to be Lothran Sea Guard. These guys are a hybrid. They're mainly there for their bows, but they can fight in combat, and they're anti-large, which is quite nice, with their little spears and shields. Up in the air, I do have a Great Eagle, and over here on the flank, I've got 1 unit of Silver Helms, which is kind of like your standard cav, and 1 unit of Dragon Princes, who are much more hardcore, big shock cav, the elite of the elite. So the main plan at the moment is to get to the top of this hill and rain fire down on my enemy. Now my opponent is Vampire Counts. He's got 2 units of dogs in the back there, including the Dire Pack, who's a Regiment Renowned version. He's gone for a small little Death Star build. So he's got 1 unit of Blood Knights in the back, but the main meat of his forces here. He has a Von Karstein Vampire Lord, 3 units of Graveguard, including the Sternsman, who'd be extra tough, 2 units of Cane Wraiths, who've got quite nice armor piercing with their little scythes here, and also they're ethereal, so they can take a lot of damage unless it's magical. And the Mortis Engine. Now this is a very expensive, risky pick, because it's quite vulnerable to missile fire. It is tough and it has regeneration, but if you can pin this out, it's very expensive and it's all good. Now he's going to be trying to stack everything on top of the Mortis Engine, which will do permanent damage just kind of consistently to my forces. And this Necromancer who's on his corpse cart. Let's see how that works out for him. So immediately, as you can see, I'm doing some mass damage to the Mortis Engine with Alith Anar firing those long shots over. He's really starting to chunk that thing down. My opponent does charge forward with the Von Karstein Lord. He's popped a lot of buffs, a lot of missile parry, damage resistance and so on. And I underestimate him a little bit. I charge in my Great Eagle, thinking oh, he's all on his own. This is a really weird move by my opponent. Not realising quite how tough he is. He was trying to get in and snipe out my Eagle with some spells. But I do have some missiles flying in, and here come the cavalry. I do pull out my Eagles, taking quite a lot of unnecessary damage. As you can see, even with all these kind of damage resistance, the missiles do all add up, and he's been so chased down by these Silver Helms, the more hardcore Dragon Princes, and the Eagle comes back being a little bit more confident now, trying to take him on. My opponent really doesn't want to give up this high ground here, so he's kind of sitting his army back. Well, I have the range advantage, so I'm not too fussed at the moment. I'm going to keep pinging in, getting that value with Alith Anar for free. So my opponent does bring the Blood Knights here, tends to come up for that downhill charge. I do spot it and try and pull out, but a little bit too late. The Silver Helms are going to take some pretty heavy damage there. You can see units just kind of dropping there all over the place. My opponent does summon a Varghul. He really wants to try and catch my cavalry off guard and take a bit of my manoeuvrability out of my build. I do pull them back, however, and up come the spearmen into the front line. With their little spears, I'm going to poke down these large targets if my opponent isn't on his game. You can see they're charging in, and now I've just got the missile watch coming down, firing over top, downhill. My opponent has started to move up with his Dire Packs, and I haven't noticed them at this point. As you can see, just raining down damage. Now, I'm not sure who came off best in this first engagement. Yes, I had took quite a lot of damage on the Silver Helms and some on the Dragon Princes, but my opponent has lost about half H points on the Blood Knights and his Lord, so not doing too bad. At this point, I did notice the Dire Packs. They're trying to get in on my Mage of Shadows I have here. I'm not sure if I mentioned him earlier. He does have the Scythe spell and Enfeebling Foe. Luckily, my cav was pulling back anyway, and the Great Eagle, so I'm just going to chuck them on top of these little doggies, and they're going to get eaten alive quite nicely. So in the front line, my opponent does chuck the Varghul in. He's a summon, so he's going to disappear. He knows he's running out of time, so he just chucks him into the front line to try and do a little bit of damage while he can. As you can see, he just falls. Now this entire time, Alith Anar has been pinging into the Mortis Engine. He's switched targets a few times, but he's back to it now, as my opponent really is trying to just weather the storm of missiles. Now I don't have the High Elf DLC, so I can't bring the Sisters of Avalon, who are a lot better at armor piercing. Well, you see my opponent does try and drop a spell here. I luckily managed to notice my units are quite bunched up. I managed to avoid too much damage, only this one unit being a little bit slow. As I was saying, I don't have the DLC, so I don't have the best armor piercing. However, I do have an absolute ton of missiles to shoot in. I feel like my opponent is making quite a big mistake by trying to weather the storm. As even though he is popping down invocations from the Hex to try and keep the Mortis Engine alive, Alith Anar is not going to be having any of it. And he's going to be up here, nice safely, on top of his hill, just shooting in and doing some serious damage. Now his front line is starting to buckle, so he does decide, it's now or never, to rush down the hill and try and meet my forces. Alith Anar with one big shot there with his magic missile attack, wrecking that Mortis Engine. So everything's going quite well for me right now. I bring the cav up round the side. I'm happy just sitting on this hill, raining missiles in with my ranged troops, while the spearmen slowly move up to block this advance. Now the spearmen are going to get munched by these Graveguard, but if I'm careful, use my spells correctly and my ranged tools, I should be able to take them out. Now Alith Anar has switched onto Von Castline Vampire Lord, doing some serious damage. In the back, my opponent does capture the Great Eagle in a Storm of Night, doing a bit of damage there. As you see, I'm quite comfortable at the moment, moving these just cavalry around the side while I hold the front line. Spearmen do rush in to meet the foe, and they're going to be there trying to hold the line. Now this is where my mage really comes into play with a big scythe all the way down the opponent's line. And it is magic damage, of course, being a spell, so his chain race take huge damage. Both the units are nearly starting to crumble. They've all both been brought down to half health. So I do bring my cav in down the side, trying to break this one side so I can collapse down on this Lord. My opponent, though, very well played to him, does bring the Blood Knights back down like he did before into the back of the cav. I saw this happening, but I didn't think I had too much chance of escaping and playing for all these troops. And they've done their job getting and doing the damage, so I'm going to let them fight, and my archers eventually retarget onto the Blood Knights and start trying to take them down while they are pinned. As you can see, my opponent's Lord and Necromancer trying to stay out of the fight as much as possible. But Alith Anar, up on his hill, is going to be retaking aim on their Lord. As we can see, going in for a shot, bam, bullseye, takes him down. And my opponent is all bunched up here. I'm just going to drop another scythe, just like before. Doing some serious damage, a little bit of friendly fire for their spearmen they're used to it. And with that, my opponent's army is going to crumble. So very well played to my opponent there. I was very happy with the High Elves. I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed playing them. And let's go see the stats at the end, guys. So if we look here, everything performed reasonably well. I was maybe a little bit over kind of confident with the Eagle early on, sending it in. And also with the Cav throughout the battle, losing the Silver Helms and the Great Eagle. But the Dragon Pincers managed to stay throughout pretty damn good. So overall, Alith Anar, super fun. I've read a book where he's the main character. I believe it's called The Shadow King, and it really is a very good book. I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in the lore. He's a really kind of dark character with an interesting backstory. I really liked picking him here. I know he's not competitive. You know, you'd normally take someone like Tyrion or a Lord on a Dragon, but he's fun and he's thematic, and I kind of enjoy him. So Spearmen just hold the line, while the missiles really do most of the damage. My opponent brought lots of Cav to shut them down. The Lothran Sea Guard, at least they can fight against Cav pretty well because they have their spears. So we're very well played to my opponent there. He was clearly going for a Death Star build. I think the main fault for him, what lost him the battle, was just sitting back. He really didn't want to give up that high ground, didn't want to be fighting me on my own terms. However, with Alith Anar here, it really suited him trying to take down the Mortis Engine, and that's what I thought about when I first picked him. It's like, oh, I know Mortis Engines are quite, a big thing in the meta. Maybe if my opponent wants, he'd really be able to help out. And he's also quite good at destroying, high armor targets like Blood Knights and so forth. So now would I recommend this build to a new player? I would say yes. I mean, it's quite forgiving. The Spearmen are just cheap and they hold very well. The Lothran Sea Guard, yes, they're your ranged firepower. But also they're very forgiving that if someone does get into the back line, they can fight and try and hold them off. Alith Anar, maybe I wouldn't pick him. I would maybe bring Tyrion. Or Teclis if you really want a lot more magic, and then just cut out the mage and maybe add in a noble instead. So I hope you enjoyed this fight, guys. I've got some more high elf ones coming up. I've been playing this build a lot and trying out some new different builds. Next up, guys, is going to be me playing my first ever dwarf game, which is pretty damn exciting. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace, peace. See you next time.